Hi everyone, welcome to a decidedly McEvil episode of Words, Images, and Worlds. Delighted on this episode to be talking a second time with author, comics creator Lucas Turnbloom. Lucas, thank you for taking some time and talking with me in the midst of everything you have going on.
No, this is wonderful. I'm so happy to get away from work for a few minutes. I've got my bowl of goldfish, which is literally the only thing I've eaten today, and it's 3 o'clock
Nice.
my time, and probably not nice according to my doctor, but nevertheless, uh, no, I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Sprinkle some Parmesan on there or something. Get some nice fancy
Shh.
goldfish.
I'm sure my doctor will watch this, and no, that's not a good idea.
Folks out there might know you for a character who's currently peeking over your shoulder, and that is Steve L. McEvil over there. Yes, yeah, and on the other side, surrounding you. And
Look at
I
his
am
nose.
told that you have an award, a noteworthy accolade that has come your way recently as well. Something with the letters ALA in it. Is that correct?
Yeah, this one right here, Steve L.
Hmm.
McEvil and the Second Wind, which is the sequel or the second book in the trilogy. It made the 2023 ALA Best of Graphic Novels for Kids reading list, and wow, I mean
Yeah.
that's the little book. I call it the little book that can, because it's got a lot of competition out there, a lot of good
Hmm.
things
Hmm.
that it's competing with, but this is the first list that the series has made, and I'm like, wow, what a list to make. That's
It's a good
fantastic. I
list.
mean, it didn't come in the top 10, but I mean, it's right there. I'm like, that's awesome because I really loved book two. I mean, book one obviously will always hold a special place in my heart, but book two of the series, I mean, there was a lot of room to explore with the humor, and I was just like, I'm so glad somebody's reading it because there's a lot of good stuff in there. So
Yeah,
I'm excited.
definitely.
I'm excited.
And you're right. It's there's a lot of competition in the market now. There are a lot of graphic novels out there, but
Yeah.
very cool book series, and glad to hear that it is getting
Thank you.
good attention and readership.
Yeah, it's and I just started doing school visits again. So I mean,
Nice. Yeah.
yeah, so we get to spend the next or 2024 promoting book two, and then next year book three comes out, and that should wrap the trilogy. We'll see if there's more, but there's definitely three. So I'm super excited.
Cool, cool. Very cool things. Um, Now I was going to ask you what is new in the world of creating because I know McEvil is a series. I know the last time
Mhm.
we talked you had another project that you were working on as well, and so I wanted to tap back into that. So in
Mhm.
other words, what's new, Lucas?
Mhm. Well, okay, so most people know me from How to Cat, which you can see the little pins on my hat for Sweetie the cat. Most people know me
Hmm.
from that. How to Cat has been a hiatus while I finish McEvil 3. McEvil 3, not to get too into the weeds, but there was a delay on it from because of me. I was having some family stuff going on last year, so it had to we had to put the brakes on it for a few months, and because of that, we had to push the date back on it, and everything just kind of stopped. How to Cat basically just stopped because of that, and so the other project that you were just discussing earlier, that stopped as well. But now everything is kind of picking back up.
Hmm. Hmm.
And How to Cat, hopefully, I'm not sure when this will air, but I mean, the first week of March it should be returning
Great,
in a
great.
serious capacity because the production on McEvil 3 will hopefully be coming to an end. That sounded bad, but I mean, like, because it's been going on so long, I'm thinking that the first week of March is when the overwhelming amount of work on McEvil 3 will be done, and then
Yes,
other
yes.
projects can start to breathe a little. So yeah. So I mean, other than family stuff, the art projects have just kind of been, the brakes have been kind of put on those. So not too much has really been worked on. I got a lot of pitches, as you and I were discussing
Hmm. Hmm.
before we started recording, and those are starting to come out now too. So I've got some big hopes for How to Cat. Wink, wink, everybody, for books. Wink, wink. So we'll
Uh-huh,
see what
uh-huh.
happens there. But I've got some other pitches that I'm working on too that are not McEvil related, not How to Cat related, but I think my audience will really like them, especially those who like cats. So
Nice,
we'll see
nice.
what's going on there. Yeah.
Cool, very cool. Well, in light of everything, in light of all the creating you're doing, the ALA nod and all the other things, I am curious about what you're learning in the process these days, what you're continuing to learn, and uh, any reports of growth there that you'd like to share.
The weird thing was, when I started the graphic novel side of the cartooning, because a lot of people know me from the web comic world, and then
Hmm.
that slowly
Hmm.
evolved into graphic novels, and then it got back into web comics. And one thing I've learned is that time goes quickly.
Yes,
I
yeah.
thought I thought by the time I was this age, which I'm in my mid 40s, that I would have a whole bunch of other books just completed. But it dawned on me now that, or not now, but I've learned that, it's a process. The books take a long time, and I shouldn't be kind of down on myself for looking back at my career and saying, well, I've only got 5 books. I mean, that's a lot. 5 books
That
is a
is,
lot,
yeah,
but I
absolutely.
look at there's some of my fellow creators who have, they're my age and they've got 20 books, so they've got 30 books, and it's like you can't compare yourself
Hmm.
to other people because it'll drive you insane. I have so many friends who have done so well in this industry, and deservedly so. Brilliant writers, wonderful illustrators. They put the time in and they deserve what they get. And, you know, it's very easy to fall into the grass is always greener thing.
Hmm.
You, you
Hmm.
can't you can't do that. You will drive yourself insane. You just got to put forth your best effort, and see what comes of it. If you're successful, great. If you can eke a living out of it, wonderful. If you do it just as a hobby, there's nothing wrong with that.
Hmm.
I did this as a hobby since I got out of college to by the time my first kid was born, so at least 10 years. Um and, and there's nothing wrong with that. Everybody moves at their own pace, and I have older friends who want to get into the industry, and I have friends who are my age who want to get into the industry, and it's just like, you know everybody has their time. You
Hmm.
will get into it if you put the work into it. And don't compare yourself, for the love of God, don't compare yourself to Dogman, because that's just nobody's gonna catch Dogman. It's just not gonna happen. And as a side note, I did do some school presentations over the last couple of weeks,
Hmm.
and and it was kind of a joke. If anybody who follows me on social media will see that I had posted, you got to do a drinking game whenever anybody asks you, are you the person that wrote Dogman? No.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
he may not visit your school, because he's that big. So, but I'm here, and I do the McEvil series. But that was all in jest. But we get that. I think every author gets that at some point. Every graphic novelist gets that at some point. Did you write Dogman?
Right, right.
Do you know Dogman? No, no. Well, I a little bit, but no. So,
Yeah, yeah. And Dave Pilkey might have written 3 books today alone. I mean, I don't
oh, that just before lunch. Yeah,
exactly,
that's
exactly.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
But I
but
love that.
that's the other thing too, though. I mean, Dave Pilkey, he works so hard, and
Hmm. Hmm.
to be jealous of his success is silly. I mean,
Yeah.
he works ridiculously hard. He's earned everything that he has. More power to him. And
Hmm.
he's
Hmm.
and Dave has allowed the doors to fling wide open to allow people like me to work. So,
Yeah.
I mean, for somebody like me who, sells, 15 copies of McEvil 2 last year, comparing myself to Pilkey, I mean, that's ridiculous. He's allowing me to do this. And there are lots of other authors that allow, Raina's a huge one, Raina
Oh yeah.
Telgemeier. Without her, I wouldn't be doing this. So why anybody would be jealous of her career is beyond me. I'm
Mhm.
grateful for Pilkey and for Raina. I mean,
Yeah,
bless them
totally.
for doing what they do, because now I can do what I do. Otherwise, I would be, still building the ads for the funeral homes that I did out of college. And oh
Yeah.
man, there's nothing that zaps the creativity out of somebody, than designing ads for funeral homes and
Hmm.
crematoriums. There's nothing worse than that. So I'm happy.
Yeah, yeah, and you're in the company of these people, you're authoring, you're creating, and what amazing work for young readers to get to enjoy, which you and I
Yes.
did not have as much of in kind of the middle grade reader, young reader space when we were growing up. So awesome that it's out there now.
And that's one thing I do in my presentations. I always include a section that shows the authors who really did kick the door
Hmm.
open for us.
Yeah.
And I tell all the kids, I said, look, you know these books, but you don't know that before these books, there was not a lot. So they really did allow people like me to work and
Hmm.
I mean they created or helped to create the careers of so many people, and I'm eternally grateful every time I see you know uh, Raina or Jeff Smith at a convention. I'm always like, thank you.
Yeah.
They're wonderful people, and they've done so much for so many people. So
Yeah, yeah. And I've never met Raina, but I've met Jeff Smith, and just a kind human. And where would we be at this point without Bone? Like just
I know,
amazing.
right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I went to a Scholastic dinner a few years ago, and he was there, and we were talking Star Wars. I'm like, I'm talking Star Wars with Jeff Smith. This is so cool.
yeah,
And
yeah.
it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate that when kids find the middle grade and elementary graphic novel space, there's lots to choose from there, and
Yeah.
McEvil certainly a go-to choice. Um,
Well, I hope so.
Yes, yes, yes. Um, so you mentioned that there are things happening in How to Cat starting within the next few weeks. Anything that you'd like to prime listeners for in terms of that?
Well, the web comic is definitely coming back.
Hmm.
I'm working on an actual website now, and just as a place where people can go and find. I mean, because social media, you just never know. I mean, now I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Threads. I don't get any traction on Twitter anymore, or X, or whatever it's called. Facebook, it's kind of just dead in the water. Instagram, it's hit and miss. You never know. I mean, I
Hmm.
got great traction over there, or I get zero traction over there. And since I've been off of it basically for a couple of months, the algorithm is just completely gone. So I'm gonna have to work my way up. But with How to Cat, the next thing coming is going to be the web comic, and it's going to come back, and
Awesome.
it's going to be regular. It's going to be the Patreon people are going to get it first, as they should, and they've been wonderfully supportive of me over the past couple of months, even though I've had to be on hiatus, and that has been tremendous. I could not be here without them. So I'm hoping to get some better rewards for them because they absolutely deserve it.
Mm.
And then, I mean, realistically, I mean, I never talk about things until I'm quite sure, but there will be How to Cat books, plural. I'm
Hmm.
just not entirely sure how that's going to come about. I mean, I'm looking at Kickstarter in a big way, but we're still talking publishers.
Hmm.
So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, I have a few ideas for it other than just collections. I have some other things I've got, planned for it. So that's the next big thing. But like I mentioned earlier, there is a pitch. There's a few pitches, but then the really big one I'm working on, the How to Cat audience will really like. So
Nice, nice.
yeah.
Cool, very cool. Well, glad to hear that there's a vision, many things on the way, and also glad to hear that you were able to take the time that you needed because that's also a very important part of creativity and just living life and being human. So glad that that worked in the way that supported you as well.
Yeah, and I'll speak to that just real quick because I don't want to get the audience. I mean, I don't want to bring anybody down, but when it comes to mental health, I mean, people, and I'm not talking about me specifically.
Hmm. Hmm.
It's important to just take the time and be there for people who need it, and even for people who don't want help. Um, you have to make sure that you're there for them as well. And last year was kind of something that I had never really had to deal with before, and it was just uh, you know uh, when it comes to mental health, just be there for people, and reach out to a friend that
Hmm.
you haven't heard from in a while, and even the person that you think is doing fine, ask them how they are, ask them if they're doing okay, ask them if they need anything. It's very important. I mean, in a post-COVID society, I don't think we people don't still don't comprehend how hard that was, and how that affected so many adults, young adults,
Hmm.
teens, children, elderly people. It's changed our society, and I still don't think we've seen how much it has
Yeah.
changed us. And it's going to start. I mean, really, over the next few years, it's just going to start coming out, and we got to be prepared for it. So just make sure that reach out to a friend, family member, neighbor, ask them if they're okay,
Yeah.
and just be there for them. Listen, do what you can in terms of that, but just be there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Love the message of compassion and couldn't agree more. Absolutely. And I don't think that's a downer at all. I think that's important and absolutely. So you mentioned web spaces and
Mhm.
you mentioned McEvil 3 on the way. Anything that you'd
Yes.
like to close with just to kind of leave listeners to be thinking about?
Yes, something that was actually supposed to have started last year but had to be put on hold is the McEvil web comic. And it's weird. It's weird when I think I had mentioned this when we talked before, but when you're a creator, unless you yourself are the brand, which I'm not, I create things. I'm not at that place yet where you can say my name and you're like, oh, he did this. Right now, you have to mention McEvil or How to Cat.
Mm-hmm,
That's where I'm at in my career, if that makes sense.
hmm.
So it's kind of strange uh sometimes promoting McEvil to the How to Cat audience because they want to see How to Cat and they don't necessarily want to see McEvil, and I totally understand it. So whenever I say, hey, I'm doing a new McEvil thing, they're kind of like, well, what about How to Cat? so
Right.
so it's very important people know How to Cat is coming back first week of March. That is the deadline I've set for myself. Unless some big thing with McEvil 3 comes up and I have to just kind of stop, that is when it's coming back. And then I'm thinking I think it's April. The McEvil webcomic will launch. Now, I'm still debating whether or not it's just going to be specifically to my website
Hmm. Hmm.
and social media, or if I'm going to do the website and like something like webtoons. I just want it to be as kind of like a filler between book 2 and book 3 because there's more of a time period between books. Like book 1 and book 2, they were literally a year apart.
Hmm.
Book 2 and book 3, it's going to be about a year and a half. So I want to make sure that readers don't forget about the McEvils. So I want to make sure that they have a web comic that's probably going to be 4 to 5 days a week,
Hmm.
and in addition to How to Cat, which will be 2 to 3 days a week. So I'm going to be busy in the web comic space in addition to other book projects. So I'm hoping that I don't pass out and just everything just disappears. So, but that is the plan. So the McEvil webcomic is coming out. Look for it April. I will obviously announce it on all my social media pages. And like I said, very likely just going to be on my website, but we'll see what Webtoons has to offer. I'm not sure yet.
Awesome, awesome. Well, Lucas, I always appreciate the conversation. Always glad to have you on. Glad to have you for the second talk, and glad to have you back at some point in the future.
Always. I'm always happy to be here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. Anytime, and looking forward to all of the creating that's on the way.
Thank you.